Welcome to another session of UH Studio Design Academy. In this session I'm going to challenge myself and I want to do a 1-hour challenge for creating a building in Blender. Okay, so let's get started. These are the towers that Zaha Hadid Architects are designing at the moment for Australia. Let's take a look. Australia's Gold Coast. So we have two kinds of symmetry here happening. So in this building here, it's exactly symmetrical. So this side is the same as that side, as this side as that side. That makes our job much easier to model. In this image, we have two kinds of symmetry. First is this side is the same as that side, and then we have radial symmetry as well with 3 sections. So the first thing I want to do before anything is set that up. So if I close this, go into Blender, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open up so I can see my reference images. Open in reference images. This is where once you get used to Blender's interface, it shines. Just being able to adjust it with everything that I want or don't want there. In this case, these images. Right, so let's get started. First, I'm going to do this building because it's simpler. So I'm going to add a plane, subdivide it, get rid of these vertices, add a mirror modifier in both sides. That's already set up. So now if I extrude this bit, let's get rid of these back faces. I think I got rid of too much. What happened here? Oh, X faces. There you go. Great, so that's that building already. And you can even see we can start shaping it up by just moving this axis out a little bit. Okay, so that's building 1. Let's do the same with building 2. So let's see, how should we do this? So first we have actual symmetry and then we're going to array it. I'm going to do a similar thing here. X vertices. Right, so now I'm going to apply the mirror modifier. So that's one section. Now, actually, maybe I will use a circle or triangle. Let's just try this. Add circle. Change this to 6. So what do we have here? I can use this section, and that section, which is 30 degrees, which is pretty much the same as that. Now the advantage I have by doing it with a circle is that I can use those midpoints, which I may need also. So we may do it a different way actually. Let's see. I just subdivided, by the way. Now I'm going to extrude, scale, it's these bits here. We want to bring down to something like that. Extrude, flip my normals. That's the base setup of the files. Now let's start looking at some of the other images. Let's get rid of the T-bar, subdivide it, and I'm going to just create a couple more sections. I'm going to subdivide it a little bit more. All right, 8 minutes. I guess the first part is really setting it up, isn't it? That takes quite a while. I suppose for any project that's the case. Okay, so now let's see what's happening here. Let's see if we can dissect it. So first I'm going to do this building because this is a really nice and easy view that they've done for us, which is, so we're looking at, it looks like about that section there. So what's happening? We have this axis here – kind of folding onto itself, and something is revealing itself. So that axis comes all the way around. Yeah, I'm definitely going to need to do this in a different way, by the way. I'm just realizing. That's all right. We have the right bits. So we start from the middle, and then we sort of turn a circle smoothly around, and then something unravels from underneath of it. Okay, let's do that. So the first thing I want to do is recreate those sections that I was talking about, because essentially we have 6 sections. So let me just show it here. All I want to keep is this bit. Okay. I'm gonna select inverse, delete the faces, mirror. Let's just reset the location. I'm gonna add an empty, add empty, plane axis. And I'm gonna rotate this. What do I need to rotate it? 60 degrees? Is that right? No. It's 360 divided by 60. I can't do math right now. Thankfully, Blender came for me. Oh, it is 60. Seemed too little for some reason. Okay, so now that we have this selected, I'm going to create a new layer, array. And for the array, we'll use object offset. Select that empty. We'll get rid of relative. And we'll say 3. Yeah, I knew it wasn't 60 degrees. What do you need to be? Maybe it is. Oh, that's right. I forgot. I was wondering why it's not working. So I may have copied in the wrong section. There you go. So start again. Mirror. Aha. So first thing I need to do is actually rotate this 30 degrees, because what we want is that axis to be mirrored. At the moment, because I did this in edit space, I did all the edits in edit space, it's hard for it to understand exactly what it's mirroring. So I'm going to select everything. I'm going to choose, if I can see from microphone, where is it? 3D cursor, rotate 30. There you go. That's what I needed to do. So now if we copy over the x-axis, that's correct. And now we have this. Now, let's just see if we get the angle looking right. What does that need to be? Minus 60. What did that end up being? 120. That's what I was thinking it should be. 120. There you go. Okay, excellent. So now, all we need to do is just work on this one section, which is the same on this side, and then it rotates 3 times around the building. 1, 2, 3. Cool. Alright. Besides having all these beautiful views, another thing I like to do is subdivide my viewport. 15 minutes. Okay. Okay, so it looks like that section pops out and it sort of diverges. So this area here, the one that's inside of it, there you go, sort of diverges. So this whole section twists onto itself. Let's see if I slide that vertex. I'm going to use GG just to slide it along the actual axis. So that's going to be this line here. That's going to be this review. And then we have the top bit, and that's going to twist onto itself as well. Let's just see how we're going to do that. It kind of wants to pivot onto itself. So I guess what we will do is bring that point inwards. Now the other thing that also happens is that middle axis, it moves significantly inwards as well. So let's do that. I'm going to use GG so it slides along its axis. Let's see. Is that about right? No, I think you may need to stay like that. Yep, that's starting to look correct. Alright, so if we look at it from the front view, I know it's quite early to understand what's happening yet. Let's in fact insert one loop cut somewhere over here, so I can start sliding some of these vertices. Now if I preview this with a subsurface, what do you call it? Subsurface modifier, that's what we get. Now we want to remove just the front and the bottom faces for now. Get them to where they need to be later. Okay. I need to merge with the array. If I do merge, let's change that distance to something greater, 0.1. First, last. There you go. So that's the initial approximation. Of course, we're going to work with it a lot now. I just wanted to see what's happening now if we're starting to get some of the right angles. So let's just Shift D1, Shift D1, Shift D1, Shift D1. Right, so that's already starting to look a little bit like it. So what's happening here? So once we do that reveal, this looks like it actually pops out a little bit. Right, so I also want to apply this. Make everything sharp pretty much. Let's do a couple more levels of subdivision. Okay, what do we say? This is the front face. Just gonna add a little bit of ambient occlusion within the space. Strand 2, distance 2. That should help me see these things a bit better. I know some people probably use matte capping. What would that give me? Oh, that looks good. Cool. Okay, so we're getting somewhere, slowly. I'm gonna move this down a little bit, and it looks like it's getting a bit squeezed. Sort of balls out. So that line is straight, and then from this point on, it kind of starts to twist itself. Right, so one thing we don't have is this element here. So wait, I'm looking at the wrong tower. This is the tower I should be looking at the moment. Let's see. In that tower. Okay, so it's twisting, and so those corners are almost stitching themselves up. Yeah, so this bit, let's see if I can cheat it. It needs to come to this axis. I know proportions are not exactly correct at the moment, but we're gonna address that later. Well, there's a lot of loop cuts in here. Yeah, when I was modeling the last Zaha building, I realized the guys there, they love to use loop cuts, which is fine. I love to use loop cuts as well. I guess it makes sense, since we were sort of trained by the same guys. Let's move this down. Yeah, so now I'm going to start sort of shaping it up a little bit. Let's see, maybe I would adjust the proportions because it's much taller. Excuse me. Than what I'm drawing here. What's this? Is that needed? Let's see, let me just remove the subsurf for a second. Oh no, it's not. That's a leftover. $51. Okay. Let's bring the top a little bit higher. I want to start looking at more or less the correct proportions. That's straight, and this comes in twists. Let's move this angle a little bit higher. Maybe it's starting to twist too much, too fast. You see that pretty much stays flat all the way through. So actually, I'm going to get rid of this curve. Let's look at this now again. Okay, so we have this that starts to unravel itself, which is that line over there. That's fine. Let me try matte caps in here. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so this face is that unraveling bit over there. And this face is this face here. And then this face is that interior face. I think we got the right bit. And what's happening is that this is unraveling itself. And then this face is twisting onto itself. Okay, so I'm gonna try again with a loop cut. I'll leave it in the front, that's fine. I'm going to change my snaps to vertices. Snap this, press Control. I know that front bit is as straight as possible, that's why I'm pushing this out to where it was. And you can see how that slowly starts to twist, because this axis, if we look at it in, well, that's the plan that we have. This axis here, it starts to like push, move back. 24 minutes, it's almost time. Gosh, 1 hour is not a long time, is it? Okay. Alright, so this twists completely. I mean, all this stuff is not really complicated. You just have to think about what the theory is and just understanding what's happening exactly and like what's twisting in what way and moving it. That's the bit that takes a while. Otherwise, the modeling, as you can see, is just a couple of lines. It's not anything terribly complicated. Now, I am noticing that these axes need to move a little bit closer. Now, scale them towards the can I do that? Let's do it one by one. Scale. No. Scale. Okay, so if that doesn't work, I can always just put him back where that point is and then move him along the x-axis. Or rather, that's the z-axis. There you go. It's a bit more exaggerated. We're going to work with it. That's too much, isn't it? And that's too little. That's alright. We'll get there. Okay, so what's happening here? This is still fairly flat and then it sort of starts to twist. So let's do that bit here. I hope these are all on the same axis. Yeah. Okay. Right, so then the next thing that happens is that this corner is actually much higher. And then we can do that. Which angle do I know is pretty perfect? Okay, so now I'm going to do another loop cut. Somewhere over here, and this is where I know that it's really starting to twist, isn't it? The part is straight. Ah, that's interesting. It actually, well, it's hard to tell. Let's look at a different view now. We've been looking at this view for too long. That's the building. Yeah, so that kind of stays almost flat in a way, doesn't it? So it's that whole section almost changing it. And now I see what's happening. There's a bit, is there? It looks like there's a bit of a gap that's introduced. Yeah, along that edge, perhaps. Yeah. Cool. Alright, now it's time to do a bit more loop cuts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate them exactly along the axis, because right now I know where they need to be. It's not where I want them to be. So I'm going to move them along this axis. Scale that, what's this? That's the y-axis. Scale the y-axis to 0. Change the y value to 0. And now if I use my central pivot point, I'm going to rotate 30 degrees. Now I know it's exactly on axis. That's important because we want that to start merging going to get rid of this face. Is that right? Nope. X face. So this line, that vertex, it needs to squeeze all the way up to that corner as well. Everything is converging to that corner. So I'm going to do a similar thing with this. Let's push this to 0. Scale it on, what did I scale it on? The x-axis. Now rotate it 30 degrees. No, 30? I think so. Is that right? I think in this case it would be 60. Rotate Z, 60, negative. Okay, that's correct. Let's just move these vertices down a little bit. Getting some bad geometry here. I see why. Let's change my pivot point. Things are merging where they shouldn't be merging. So now that we have this more or less in the right place, I do want to keep this continuous loop here. Let me just select it to show you which one that is. So that's this face, and that's this face over here. So I don't want it to be exactly the same. We're going to be using it, so I'm going to just offset it ever so slightly. Something like that. I probably need to change my merge distance to something smaller. There you go. Okay, slowly getting there. Oh gosh, 30 minutes. I don't know if I'll get to 2, but maybe we'll do 1. One of the buildings. Okay, I'm just going to bring this down, down, down. And I think proportionally speaking, also this corner here is a lot lower. So let's just bring those, both of those down a bit. That's slowly starting to look all right. So what's happening? What's the angle? This stays there. That kind of, there's a interesting inset sort of moving inwards into the building, and then it doesn't really pop up as much as I'm showing. So I'm going to bring these vertices down, or back rather. Yeah, Zaha always likes to do these kind of, they're almost like flowery elements that kind of unravel themselves as they grow and they flourish and blossom and flower, and yeah. Okay. So we have this unraveling element here. We have this edge. Now, what this happens, I mean, we're keeping it as a really thin edge. So this edge is this unraveling bit over here. So let's just see how does that starting to look in plan. Starting to look all right. Let's keep working at it. Now, I need to bring this out forward a bit. Let's do that. Where are you? Here you are. Let's slide it out. I'm sliding it out by the way with using GG. Except that's not the right way to do it. What is the right way to do it? Let me just think now. Oh, I know what I can do. I can create a dummy object. Select plane. I'm going to rotate you. Are you then 60 or 30 in the positive? Okay, yep, that's it. Yeah, so you'll see what I'm doing here in a second. I'm just using this as a dummy, so I'm going to be snapping to it. Let's just figure out where we want that axis to be. Probably more or less over here. Now I can just simply slide an edge, which as you can see before, I couldn't really do that well. Let's get rid of some of these faces. All I need is this axis. Whoops. Extrude Z. Okay. So now if I go back into my actual object, right, yeah, that works. Excellent. Let's grab all those vertices and yep, So one thing that's good to do is just make sure that the height is the same, because otherwise it's going to move over all the other elements. So with that in mind, now if I do G vertex, sweet. So now that's in the right place. I'm just going to move this over slightly. Let's use local edit. Let's make sure I have the right thing selected. Okay, select you. I think maybe do something like that. Just move this and snap those two here. That's too much. We're getting there though. Let's see. Let's hide this object. Alright, so I think we have the gist of it. And now it's all about manipulating the geometry and adding loop cuts. Yeah, it looks like this cut here is a lot more gentle. Right, so now I'm going to start making a few harder edges. Well, let's just see, is there any other problems with the geometry? That's about correct. That's about correct. That's about correct. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. Let's just see if the twisting, I see what I need to do. Maybe we can move that element over. Yes, so what we need is another loop cut. Whoops, let me redo that. So now I can start twisting it a bit more. Okay, so that actually, what's happening? This is staying a lot further out, and there's an interesting kind of cave almost happening in that section. So I want to preserve as much of that as I can. And what's happening here? I know what's happened. These need to move back towards the center. In fact, I know how I can make this even easier for myself. If I twist my model with the empty, yes, 60 degrees. Now I can work with this much easier. Right. Item global, local. Huh. Yes. Precisely what I wanted. Yeah, I should have done that a while ago. Okay, so now I can move much easier. I don't even need this dummy object anymore. And now that we have it properly aligned, I can do what I wanted to do for a long time, which is just reset that axis so everything is in line. Okay, yeah, so the other weird thing that I started doing here, which is where I started getting confused, is that line, that loop cut, is moving up and down, which is fine for when we need to, but it's ideal if we try to keep all of those loop cuts as close to one another as possible, at least initially. Afterwards, you know, we can do whatever we want once we have it all sorted. Right, so we got this moving inwards in that axis. Now I need to start moving it slightly inwards on this axis. So if I grab all of those elements and just put them inwards like that. Yep, that's getting us to what we want. And this element, they've actually closed it. I'm debating whether I should close it as well. Oh, I suppose that's what that loop cut is, but do we need that loop cut that low? Maybe I just put this higher to get the effect that we're looking for. Now I think this twisting is a little bit too much, so I'm going to move this up a little bit, and maybe this axis needs to go up as well. Let's move this axis slightly out. Yeah, it's very gradual. Yeah, so the other thing it seems like is just maybe make the tower taller, and that is remaining exactly where I've left it. But when you see here, it's actually a very subtle movement all the way through. So I'm going to move it in a little bit also. Let's see how that's looking. Yeah, so I'm going to do the same here. If I change to local now, it should be in the right place. Okay. We're getting there. Cool, I'm gonna leave this sort of base geometry as is. And I'm gonna copy my object. Oh, I need to copy it, undo. I need to copy with the empty so it stays intact. Okay, so now let's start subdividing this. I'm gonna just create a bunch of loop cuts here. There aren't that many. How many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do 5. If I do this and I'm in edge mode, it will only select the edges. So now if I do a slight bevel, something like this, let's do it as a percentage, just so we don't have any weird intersections when the bevels are really small up here, because we don't want anything to counter interact each other. Okay, so now we're gonna not extrude. What is it that I want? Oh, my space is tiny that I'm working on. There you go, that's better. Inset, that's the one that I wanted. So we're gonna use the depth, give it a bit of depth. Slightly out. 10 minutes. Okay, it's kind of there, kind of not. You know, the articulation of the geometry is slightly different. I think the base comes in a little bit more. We need to work with the edges. We need to give them a bit of height, but I'm not gonna get to do that this time. But what we can do is, let me just move these a little bit out one last time. Okay, it's starting to look like what I want it to look. Cool, so I'm just gonna add some floors now, really simple. Add a plane. And I'm not using the right scale or anything for the time being. So let's array. And the z-axis, usually this is like 4 meters, but let's see what looks good here. 0.1, 0.2. Once we have a few more of those, then we'll see whether the scale looks right. And then a solidify modifier. I'm going to put this on top of the stack. So the way I think is that if it's on the top of the stack and we need to array it afterwards, if we do it on the first geometry, it should make all the other geometry a little bit lighter to do it. Let's see if that's my case. Is that the... Yeah. Let's see if that's the case. Okay. Oh no, that's a lot. Yeah, I haven't had time in that 1 hour to set my scale properly. Okay, so I'm gonna do a boolean with this. I need to cap it so it does the boolean correctly, or solidify the edge, but I'd rather cap it. See if we have my edge. Yeah, that's gonna be an issue. Okay, maybe I'll try. Let's see what would solidify really. Let me save my file. Would solidify make everything really thick and tough? Well, if I do solidify though, I'm gonna get only that section, whereas I want internal bits. Yeah, that's not the right way to do it. Let's hide you for a second. Now I want to make a top and a bottom face. If I select everything, put a face here. Yeah, for the time being, I don't care about what the tops look like, but ideally we would spend some time modeling that as well. I'm gonna get this to go to my center. Let's do the same. just move this in the z-axis. Remove doubles again because I should have 2 extra vertices. Okay, so now it's not pretty. And the reason for this is that we need to create proper lines, proper vertices, all those kinds of things here. But let's see if I do that. Would that fix it a little bit? Yeah, we get all these strange artifacts in the corners. That's right, we can have 2 meshes actually. One that we use for... Oh yeah, that's the other issue here that we're getting. But let's see, if this is a solid, then I have that hole. Technically, actually should work. Yeah, I don't need those there. That should still be good. Let's just make all these corners sharp. Shift E1. 6 minutes. We got everything. Yeah, now one of the ways to start to fix this is to create an edge loop here. Let me dissolve this. What happened? X edge. Let's just redo it. Yeah, we have so many vertices here. I'm never actually gonna sort it out too well. Something like this. Yeah, and the issue is that the density of the mesh here is significantly more than the density of the mesh there. That's why it's doing those funny artifacts. But now if we do an inset, that may help us clean up the geometry at least a tiny bit. I mean, it's not perfect, but well, the reason why I'm doing all of this to begin with is, let's not forget, is to get my floors to intersect with the building. Once we have that, we can figure out the cap in a better way. Yeah. Okay, so with these floors, let's do a boolean modifier. Intersect. Let's create my building. What is it called? Circle. And there's a lot of subdivisions there, so it may be a bit heavy. Now we have the floors. And it looks like there's a few more in there. 60. Let's do, I don't know, how many do you think they are? Oh, actually they're all the right ones. It's the array that I need to change, 0.15, because there are a lot more floors. What's being drawn here? Okay, and we should make the floors a little bit thinner. Look, yeah, so you can see there's clear arrows everywhere. Like, let's go back to it. Okay, 3 minutes. Right, so that's what I can do in an hour. Let's close it. Yeah, so right away I can see that I should move that edge a little bit closer, although it depends on the view actually as well, doesn't it? Because here it looks like it's about the right proportion. That angle needs to come a little bit further forward. Yeah, and the way that this meets this face here intersects, it's also a little bit, oh no, it is twisting. It's just, I think it's the angle that makes it look funny. And yeah, usually what I do after having those floors is like slightly scale them inwards. In fact, let's do that. I'm going to apply. Let's apply all. It takes a while because the subdivision and surface modifier on the object that it's intersecting with, it has a lot of vertices. So the edges of all these floors, they have a ridiculous amount of vertices most likely. So now if I just go into edit mode and just scale by 0.95, 0.98. Great. Thank you very much for joining us, and see you next time. And if you have a challenge or a building that you think would be good to model, let me know and I'll be happy to look at it. Cheers.